Welcome back to the Real Personal Branding Podcast. I am Lauren V. Davis, and today I have a very special guest who you might even recognize from TV, here to discuss a topic that many entrepreneurs find both essential and overwhelming, and that is email marketing. I'm bringing you this conversation with Liz Wilcox, and I have to say I'm particularly excited about this one because when I bring on guests, I'm always searching for that perfect blend of expertise, personality, humor, but also, very important, actionable advice that makes marketing feel real and fun. Liz delivers on all fronts, and bonus, you might even recognize Liz Wilcox from the last season of Survivor. Extra cool bonus points there. Liz, known as the Fresh Princess of Email Marketing, has a track record that speaks volumes. In just 5 years, she grew and sold a successful blog, got bought out of her second company, and built her third into a multiple six-figure business. She's got the brains behind the 20-minute newsletter technique and the email staircase framework, which she's taught to tens of thousands of entrepreneurs worldwide. And in this conversation, we're covering three essential things. Well, actually, we're covering a lot of things, but here's three things I hope you'll learn from this episode. And those three things are how to consistently write engaging emails in less than 20 minutes a week, strategies for monetizing your email list effectively, and creating a profitable business model based on a micro product or membership. And as a bonus, we'll get a tiny glimpse into Liz's experience on the popular TV show Survivor. You will not hear vague advice from Liz here. You're just going to hear practical insights from someone who's turned email marketing into practically an art form. And if you are ready to boost your email knowledge, this is the conversation that you need to hear. So let's get started. Thank you so much for being on the Real Personal Branding Podcast, Liz. I am so happy for you to be here.
Oh my gosh, I am too. I love this podcast. I feel like it's so... Yeah, just be a real person. I don't know how many times I feel like screaming that at my audience every day. So I'm hyped up. Let's go.
Yay. And yeah, that's exactly how I feel too. It's like the real me that you're going to get on this podcast is the same me you would have coffee with or a drink with, or the same me that you would run into at a networking opportunity or a conference. And that is what we're going for, right? So you might not know this about me or my life, but my partner and I have actually been traveling in a van for the last couple of years. And I know that you actually kind of got your start and like came into this entrepreneurial business world when you were living in an RV. And so I wanted to talk about that because I think so many people think, well, I can't run my business or I can't start a business unless everything about the environment is right and all the situations are perfect for me to start. I know that I felt like that even several times. It's not just like people out there, but like I've felt like that in moments of my life too. But as we both know that when you're like living in a vehicle, like an RV or a van, you know, sometimes everything in your environment is not really normal, right? Actually, nothing is normal. Can you share a little bit? So true. Can you share a little bit about how your experiences on the road led you to your business? Give us a little background story for those of us that don't know you as well. Give us a little bit about your background story and how you got here.
Yeah. So this isn't something I typically share, but I want to share with y'all because it is so just freaking real and also slightly ridiculous, but that is who I am. So I started my blog, but I want to share what happened like the month before I started the blog.
Yes.
So my then husband had just gotten home from Afghanistan and we were moving from upstate New York to Alabama, and we were buying a house, but the deal fell through. And it was like, oh my gosh, we're moving tomorrow. Like, what are we supposed to do? And my husband joked, oh, well, everybody in Alabama lives in a trailer. Why don't we just buy an RV? But what my husband and I hadn't been married that long, and we had basically the whole time we were married, he was in Afghanistan, right? And so what he didn't know about me is like, I take things seriously. If I like the idea, I run with the idea, which I'm sure we're going to talk a lot more about today. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I hate spending money. I didn't want to buy a house anyway. And I hate cleaning. I could live in a small space. When I met my then husband, I was living in a hotel room. So I was like, this is perfect for me. Fast forward, I rent an Airbnb, and that's this back when Airbnb was like brand new. But there was one that had an RV. And I was like, well, I've never even been inside an RV. So I
Yeah.
rented this RV, and no joke, I turned the TV on and there was this young couple buying an RV. And it was that typical like HGTV, like
Yeah.
how can they afford this $150,000 rig? And I Googled them and I was like, oh my gosh, they're bloggers. Oh my gosh, they're
Oh,
younger than me. Maybe I should start a blog. Like I could do that. And so we bought the RV like 5 days later. I started my blog almost immediately because I was like, this new mom, and I come from an education background. So I'm used to like, being, I don't know, for lack of a better term, like a scholarly type of thinker. So I'm like, I need something to do. Now that I've moved to Alabama, I don't know anyone, I'm so far from my environment. And so I started this blog basically because I saw somebody literally on TV buying this rig. And I was like, oh, I want to afford that rig one day. I want to. And then as I started following that same blogger that I saw on the TV, I was like, oh my gosh, they travel in that thing. Oh my gosh, I'm definitely got to make money that way. So I don't know. I just felt really compelled to share that. You don't have to have the right environment. Y'all, when I started, I lived in that RV. It was like 200 square feet. And if y'all have ever been to the woods, you can imagine the Wi-Fi signal. Okay. It was almost non-existent. And you can't see Lauren, but she's shaking her head like, girl, don't I know it? And so I'd go to laundromats, libraries, Lowe's parking lots, and I would steal the internet to, write the blog post and upload it.
this is so funny and so real. Thank you for sharing that story. I think that sometimes online, like media and social media, makes us feel like people just become success stories overnight. They run their business and now they have this beautiful, successful business, and they had the idea 3 weeks ago and now they're at taking action on it. And now it's, successful. That's not how it happens. And so you sharing that, that deeper, like that deeper version of yourself with us, where you actually started this from a place where you were like, I don't really know what I'm doing yet. And now you have a successful business, just kind of shows us like there is time that goes into this. There are moments where you're like, I don't know that I have internet. I don't know how this is going to work, but I'm going to figure it out. And you just kept taking the right next action. So thank you for sharing that. And how did that blog turn into what you do today? Email marketing, your micro offers, like tell me a little bit more about that.
Listen, I just told you I don't have a lot of time, right? I don't even have internet. I'm a new mom, right? My husband's in the military. And so I was just working in the margins of life. And also like I'm a very efficient go-getter. And I was listening to, awesome podcasts like this, and everybody was like, email list, email list, email list, right? And so Mama didn't raise no fool. I'm going to start the email list. The day I launched my blog, the day I posted on Facebook, hey, this is what I'm doing, was the day I launched my email list. Join my list so you can get updates, right? And because I knew I wanted it to be a business, because I had seen those bloggers on TV, I'm on their email list. I guess that's the next step, right? And so I wanted to be as efficient as possible simply because I needed to be. And so to Lauren's point of like, you don't have an idea 3 weeks later, you're on the cover of Entrepreneur, right? But
Yeah.
it is, you have to be very intentional with your time. Of course, we're all going to flounder those first few years, but really asking yourself, slowing down enough from the distractions, right? Because everybody's trying to tell you the next right step, and really focusing in on, well, what is the next right step? Do I really need to take this challenge on getting comfortable in front of the camera if ain't nobody watching in the first place? Like, what do I really need to be doing? And that's what I did. And that's how it led to me starting the email list. To Lauren's question, a few months later, I, did the next right step. Oh, you have an email list? Sell them something. Create your own product. That's how you make the most money. So I created an ebook. It sold something like $7,000 in the first few months. It got picked up by an international sponsor. I was like, holy crap, this is real. And I just kept building the email list, coming up with little mini offers, like Lauren calls them, right? And eventually I finally created the digital course right after like 3 years, had a wait list. That's my next right step, right? And the wait list had 141 people on it. I made 141 sales by cart close date. And
Wow.
I'm not a copywriter. I'm not in this B2B world. I didn't know that that was exceptional. I just thought, oh, I have a wait list. That's what they're telling me to do. Right. And that's how I got into this email game was people, wow, how'd you do that? And I'm like, well, isn't that what you're supposed to do? And that's when I knew, oh, wow, I'm doing something a little different than everybody else. And because the email has changed my life, because I now am on the road, I'm not worried about money as much. I want to teach other people because I hate like thinking back to those days and I want to help other people that are in those days get out of them.
I love that. And I love the accessibility factor of your offer, which is a like $9 or $10 membership. You'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but it is so accessible. And you teach people all of this stuff about email and about how to create successful emails that really sound like them and that are not slimy, salesy, or only engaging them when you have something to sell, all of that good stuff. What inspired you to develop such an accessible offer, and what role did email play in this? Like how did you build this and why did you build it?
Yeah. So, about a year into the email marketing thing, the Liz Wilcox brand, so to speak, I had just signed $20,000 high ticket, copywriting services. Let me write your emails for you. But at the same time, I'm growing this email list because that's what I do, right? And I know eventually I want to sell digital products and services, or I'm sorry, digital products and courses and all that to them because that's what I did in my travel blog. I knew that that was a real thing that I could do, but I needed real money. So I was doing the services while growing the email list on the side, so to speak. And I signed that $20,000 contract, or I think it was two contracts. And I should have been elated. $20,000. Oh my gosh. When I went to school to be a teacher, they told me I would maybe make $23,000 to start. So I'm basically rich, right? I'm basically Oprah with this
Yes.
$20,000 contract. But what y'all have to understand about me is I have a lot of responsibility when I turn my computer off. I'm a single mom now. My sister works for me full time. So I'm responsible for basically every dollar she spends. I support my mom financially, and so on and so forth. And so now it was, okay, I have this money. We're all going to be okay for the next 4 months. But now I have $20,000 worth of responsibility, that I have to, and now I have a boss, so to speak, right? And if you can't tell just by my voice, like I'm not the type of chick that likes to have a boss. And so it just felt like a lot of weight. And I went to write my newsletter that same day. And it's like, oh, what do I write about? Oh, should I tell them? Oh, I'm making $20,000 this week, blah, blah, blah. And it just felt corny and whack. It felt like so out of alignment. Like the people that are on my list are like me years ago. Like I didn't mention this, but I grew up really poor. I mean, I just said like all these people I support, right? And it was like, that's not the message they need to hear. That's so unrelatable. And then I thought, well, what is the message they need to hear? And if I want them to eventually one day be able to sign a $10,000, $20,000 contract with me, how can I help them get there? What do I need to say? And I teach email marketing. I know that's a difficult topic. I know it feels like a knot that you're never going to be able to untangle. And I know there's a lot more dopamine to be had on social media. Okay, I know that. And so, like Lauren alluded to, the offer I came up with was just this simple $9 hey, let me write it for you type of emails. I know this feels really hard, but I really want you to be able to afford these crazy copywriting prices one day. But you can't do that if you don't take your email marketing seriously. And if you don't have a friend showing you the way. Let me be that friend. $9. And that's how I came up with the offer.
I love that. I have so many thoughts. My first thought is that I feel the same way. Like I would rather grow my reoccurring monthly revenue and also be accessible to more people that are the people that I'm aligned with and that I care about. And that is what I hear kind of in some places between the lines of what you're saying is like you wanted to be helpful to the people that you really cared about and you deeply, truly resonated with and felt like you could see yourself in many years ago. And
Yeah.
I think that's really beautiful. The other thing that I think about is a lot of people I know are building memberships, and a lot of people listening to this consider building a membership or some kind of monthly relationship with their clients. And I wonder, because I know that your membership is very well known for its efficiency and its engagement, what do you think sets your model apart? How do you think that you maintain retention in your membership group or excitement among your members? Tell me a little bit more about how you kind of keep that excitement going, how you keep that engagement going over a long period of time.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the obvious answer is I'm a genius. Obviously, I'm joking. No, I'm not a genius, but I did mention this. I have an education background. I've studied curriculum, I've studied how to engage many different kinds of students. And I also have a master's degree in leadership. So I've studied how literally I have a higher degree in mentoring leaders, mentoring teachers, experts, guiding them. Right. And so that I think, and I didn't realize it at first, but the more I saw other memberships or, oh my gosh, I tried a membership, I couldn't, run it the way you do. I'm like, oh, it's that background, maybe. And so I've really, slowed down to speed up instead of
Got
thinking, oh,
it.
I want to add this and that. And, oh, I see other people doing this. It's like, well, what does my audience actually need? And remember, I already mentioned this. I know email marketing feels incredibly hard. So why would I dump all sorts of things on them at once? And so even like I have guest experts that come about once a quarter, and those things expire after 12 months. My Q&As that I do once a month, those things expire after 3 months. And some people will say, "Oh, I wanted to go back and watch that." I say, actually, it's by design that it expires. If you didn't use it in the last year, you actually didn't need it. And
Yeah.
so, like, I want you to move on and learn to let go
Yeah.
because I mean, that's something we don't talk about in entrepreneurship a lot, but you really, you have to focus. You only want that thing that expired because now you don't see it on the dashboard anymore. If you really needed it, you would have. And so a lot of the things in my membership are designed to get people to take action, to differentiate the instruction so that if are diagnosed neurodivergent or you're a visual learner versus auditory. I have all of those things built into the membership so that it keeps people engaged, so that it keeps them staying in the membership, like Lauren said, and so that it looks different enough or feels different enough that this is where I need to be. Liz is the one to help me with this problem. And wow, I'm actually moving the needle in this email marketing thing.
Okay, this is all such good stuff. And it's so exciting to learn about how you did it and how you built this membership, how you've built this community of people who look up to you. And this is the Real Personal Branding podcast, of course. How much do you think that your personal brand ties in to people wanting to be part of this membership? Truly, they can Google, like, how do I write a good email, right? And if you have good at SEO, you'll come up, of course, and you do. So you will definitely show up right at the top there. But what are some of the ways that you feel like your personal branding has contributed to people wanting to be part of this membership and wanting to stay connected with you and build trust with you?
Yeah. Well, I've said it a few times. It's hard. My personal brand is fun, right? I like to have a lot of fun. I like to make jokes. And this is the real me, like, I really don't take myself seriously. I take what I do very seriously. I just told you, oh, I have a background in this, boom, 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 boom. But I don't take Liz very seriously. Liz Wilcox, serious. Liz, not so serious. So, in my brand and in my life, I have certain core values. Fun is one of them. Making mistakes is one of them. Equ- you know, Trying to make things equitable is one of them. And I think that just shines through. Even when you join the membership, you get, an email with like a silly GIF. You log into the dashboard. It's bright colors. It's very simple. Actually, I would say probably my biggest core value is simplicity. Like, I hate inefficiency. I hate waste of any kind. I always say I'm a two-step chick. If it takes 3 steps, I'm out of here. And so even designing the dashboard to be as simple as I possibly can make it. And I'm constantly looking at that. I was just looking at it yesterday, like, too complicated. We need to zhuzh this a little bit. I have to click 4 times. That's outrageous. And so just those, leaning into the core values, putting those at the forefront of your brand, it's more than, oh, Liz, she's got loud colors. Well, I have loud colors because my core value is fun. My core value is simplicity. If people can log in and already feel good from the visuals, I know they're going to be brave enough to start. So all of that's incredibly intentional.
I love the intentionality behind that. Okay, so let's get into some of the tactical questions because I want people to know the best practices for themselves, how they can write good emails, how they can create good business structure for themselves. Let's talk about some tactical things. A lot of businesses struggle to create engagement within their email lists. This is something we hear day in and day out. We see all these social media posts about it, right? What strategies do you recommend to small business owners or entrepreneurs, speakers, podcasters, people who are building their personal brand for themselves, who want to nurture relationships through email without feeling salesy?
Yeah. Well, let me crack my knuckles. Hang on.
Okay.
This is one of my favorite
Ready.
questions.
We're ready. Yes.
I wish every host would ask me this question because it's so important. I know getting replies, getting engagement is so hard. I know it is, but that's because, and I say it with love, you're doing too much. You're skipping steps. Remember, let's slow down to speed up. Let's start with the most basic of basic things. So in your welcome sequence, that autoresponder, I join your email list. You're going to send me a few different emails guiding me and welcoming onto your list, right? You're doing that right. In that welcome sequence, you've got to have a yes or no question in that first email. Please do not email me and ask me where I'm at in my entrepreneur journey. How do I feel about my personal brand right now? Those are complicated questions. Sure, I might know, but also I don't know you. Geez, Lauren, I just, found you on Pinterest or whatever. Like, I'm not going to tell you how I feel about my personal brand. It feels crappy. Why would I tell a stranger how crappy I feel? Right? This isn't a bus stop.
Right. Exactly.
And so, like, we've got to slow it down. We've got to break it down the same way with my templates inside my membership. I break down every aspect. You've got to break that question down. So ask a very simple yes or no question. Do you have colors for your personal brand? And you might say, well, I don't even teach colors. That doesn't actually matter to your brand. Okay, but they probably think it does. And it's a very simple yes or no question. For me, I ask, do you write a weekly newsletter? Yes or no? And I'm telling you, I know you're walking the dogs, you're doing the dishes, something. You don't have to write this down because it's so easy, but it has to be a yes or no question. It cannot be anything else. And this is because we're starting this relationship with our subscribers. We're starting really, really small, right? Like, if I went to a conference, what's the first question I'm asking you? Can I sit here? Yes or
Right.
no? I'm not asking, oh my gosh, how did you get to this conference? Why did, those are
Yeah.
once I sit down, once we warm up, we're going to start asking deeper questions. So in your welcome sequence, making sure you've got a yes or no question. Another really good tactic you can put in your welcome sequence is having an email that kind of helps them self-identify. Oh, yes, I'm in the right place. But in that email itself, have them type something like to the exact word. For example, I tell them, oh, I'm going to email you once a week. I'm going to send this free and paid products, whatever, whatever. And then I say, if this sounds good to you, type too legit to quit. Shout out the personal brand,
Mhm.
right? And every single day, people hit that reply button, too legit to quit. And of course, they normally type something else. I love this. You're making this so much fun. I found you through Lauren Davis, da, da, da. They're going to type more, but you have to give them direction, right? If we're thinking about it as I'm the educator, what do educators do? We give our students directions, right? And so you have to give them a direction. You have to give them a starting point. So if we're not doing those things in our welcome sequence, pause the podcast, write it down. Those are your action steps today. So that's how I would really recommend getting started with engagement via email, especially. And then, of course, you can use those exact same tips in your weekly newsletter. If you're like, oh, well, that's great, but what about these people I already have? Just start doing that in your newsletters.
And another tactical reason why doing something like that is so good is because when somebody replies to your email servers mark each other as a safe contact, right? Like, so that's great
Yes.
because that means that your emails are going to continue being served right into their inbox and that their email server has no problem with you. So that's always a great tool and great method. Do you feel, this is something I always say about social media, but like I feel like when people use social media the way that you just said, like at a networking event, the first question is, can I sit here? When people use social media in a way that feels like real life, they do a lot better. But because we're all of these human beings, right, behind our devices, behind our computer screens. And I think that the way that you're talking about email, it goes a lot, uh, that sounds a lot like the same way that you talk about email is like, okay, how would you do this in real life? Because even though we are using devices, we are still real humans back here, right? How would you
Yeah.
talk to someone like you were talking to them in a coffee shop? Would you write the most perfect words and the most like beautiful description? Would you use ChatGPT before you went to the coffee shop to ask what you should say to the person you're about to talk to? Probably not. You know the words to say. You've got it inside you, right? And I think that what you're teaching here and how you're teaching it makes so much sense.
I love that. Yeah. Forget B2B, forget B2C. You are H to H, right? Human to human. And that's something that I share. I have a framework called the email staircase. And it's like, first you have a follower, get them on your list, turn them into a friend, right? How are we talking to our friends? And this is not like, oh, your bestie, you're sharing all your dirty laundry with, but a friend you have a mutual interest with, right? Like if I had an email list about, 90s pop culture, we have that mutual interest. We're friends now, right? Like we're
Right.
friends in that regard. And so just like Lauren said, like, oh my goodness, just write like you're writing to a friend, somebody that also loves, NSYNC and Will Smith as much as you do, right? What would you
Yes.
say? What would you type up? Or what would the conversation be at the coffee shop this week? That's what you put in
Exactly.
the email and that's how you write it.
Love it. So you talk about simplicity, about not overwhelming your audience. You've also said that maybe we should be spending only about 20 minutes writing our emails each week, right? One, how is that even possible? And then two, how do you convert people that are followers into friends? Like what kinds of things do you do within that zone of friendship to really help nurture them as friends? So the first
Yeah. So
question, sorry, going back to that first question is 20 minutes a week. That part blows my mind and I want to know more.
yeah, so I'm gonna combine these because it's
Okay.
actually I think I can do it. Let me put my
Okay.
work cap on. So 20 minutes. Well, first let's address that, y'all, if it's taking more than 20 minutes, you're really overthinking this. Remember, we want to keep it simple. And here's the thing about the inbox. It's overloaded. Raise your hand if you've got more than 100 unread emails, 1,000, 10,000. I saw somebody with over 6 figures in unreads. I was like, that's the wrong type of 6 figures, bro. Like, you need to manage that. Right. And so
funny.
we want to respect that our readers' inboxes are overloaded, that they're getting spam, that they, might be frustrated when they see our email, right? Not because it's us, but because there's a lot of other nonsense going on. And so with the 20 minutes, if you don't have time to write it, chances are they don't have time to read it, right? So we want to get in we want to get in the inbox. We want to get to the point of what we're emailing about. And we want to get the heck out of there. Okay. So that's 20 minutes. Now in your newsletter, I'm going to set up the framework and then I'm going to show you what we're actually doing in there, how to convert to friendships, right? So just a, simple greeting if you want, hey, Liz, hey, JC, hey, Joey, right? And then just a personal update, 2 to 3 sentences about something you've done since the last time you emailed them. I walked the dog. I was in a hurricane, but my internet still worked. So I'm doing podcast interviews today. My toilet broke, but the plumber's on his way. I've got 20 minutes. That's why I'm writing you, right? Just a little personal update. And remember that because we'll talk about that in a second, how that's actually converting to friendship. And then segue into the content. What do you actually have to share today? Right? Is it a new podcast episode? Is it, oh my gosh, I saw, Lance Bass was spotted outside of a bar in WeHo. Like what is that actual content you want to share? And then just get the heck out of there, right? If you've got a call to action, put it, click the link, use coupon code, whatever, and get the heck out of there. So again, just a personal update, segue into the content and call to action, get the heck out. Now, if you're like, oh, she said the word segue. I'm not a writer. I hate segues. Oh my gosh. Even with ChatGPT, it's not helping me. Here's the cheat code. Okay. Caps lock. Anyway, ... What I really wanted to share today was my new episode, my this, 3 tips for that, blah, blah, blah. Just caps lock. Anyway, that's how you segue, baby.
Oh my God. I love it. I love it. It's so good. It's so good. And it's so real. And that is exactly how I would text a friend.
Literally, right? Period. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
And so let's talk about that personal update a little bit and how we're converting these people into friends, right? Like, what does this personal update and even the content, how is that actually like helping me connect with my subscribers? Well, in order to take somebody from, a follower, oh, I just joined this list, to a friend, oh, Lauren, email me, I have to open it. We just have to do 3 things. Number 1, show that we are invested. Right? Nobody's going to invest in your products and services if they don't think you're first invested in them. So sharing things in that personal update, like, oh, I just bought a new microphone before you shared the new podcast episode, right? That you're not saying, oh, I bought this for you, but it's implied. I bought a new microphone, a new laptop. I spent 2 hours at an event learning about XYZ, right? That helps show that you are invested in them, invested in the business. The second thing you've got to do is relate to them. I've been making jokes about the 90s for the last half an hour, right? And chances are you probably remember NSYNC or Will Smith, or, maybe that wasn't your vibe. You were more Nirvana and Red Hot Chili Peppers in the 90s, but you're relating the second I say that. So in your personal update, you could put those things. You could say, oh, I was hanging my NSYNC plaque on the wall and it kept falling down. So now it's just in my window pane. That's very relatable. Even saying things like, I think I mentioned this already. Oh, my toilet's broken, but I've got 20 minutes before the plumber gets here. You might think nobody cares, Liz. That's not interesting. You're right. It's not interesting at all. but it's incredibly relatable. And we
It's so
need people to
relatable.
think, right? We need people to think, oh, Lauren's relatable. Oh, Liz, I totally get it. I hate hanging stuff on the wall too. Or, oh, my fridge broke the other day. Or, oh, I remember the disaster of my toilet in the summer of 1997, right? So just saying those silly little things gets the brain moving and gets the person relating to you. So again, I shared, in that personal update in your newsletter, show you're invested, share in a relatable way. And the third thing is stay top of mind. That's why I mentioned weekly newsletters. This one is usually the place where people cringe. But
Yeah.
honestly, if you do those first two things really well, if you show up and you show you're invested, if you become relatable, staying top of mind actually becomes so much easier, which is why we can do this 20-minute newsletter thing and people get it.
Okay. And I want to distinguish something because being relatable is different than taking the approach of telling a long, drawn out story. And I know that you don't really teach storytelling in emails. Can you tell us the differentiating factors between being relatable and writing a long story? And
Yeah, I love this. I'm so glad you brought this up. Y'all, I mean, stories work. I've told 3, 4 stories already in 40 minutes.
yes.
But we also mentioned, if you ain't got time to write it, they ain't got time to read it. And so save the stories. If you have a good story to tell, like how you got into your business, or, oh my gosh, this thing happened with my kid and it totally made me think of this really applicable thing, write that story. Spend a little more than 20 minutes. But in general, in just our newsletter, we're not trying to sell anything. We're not trying to move and motivate in a grand way. Save the story, right? Being interesting is really hard. That's why storytelling can be hard. Yes, we're all natural storytellers, but to tell a good story is actually really hard. Most of us are like Uncle John at Thanksgiving, where it's like, get on to it, get on with the point. I don't care what the name of the street was,
Yeah.
right? Most of us kind of wander like that. And so this is why I really, really emphasize showing up and being invested and being relatable, because those are things you're already doing, right? You're already invested in your business and your customer. Otherwise, you'd have a 9 to 5 or whatever. You're already relatable because you're a human and we're just H2H over here, right? So those
Yes.
things are easy. Writing a story can be really hard. And so I say save those moments, save those storytelling, really good bits for, a sales email, a pre-launch, or when you actually just really have a good story, you're like, oh, my people need to hear this.
Yeah. Okay. And you mentioned pre-launch. You mentioned when it does come to sell, how do these emails then convert into sales? Because I get the question a lot, like, how do you actually make money from your personal brand? Right. That's when I'm coaching people and I'm working with people on building more visibility for them. I always tell them, like, a lot of this comes from my email. It comes from my email list. And I don't even have the world's largest email list. I've just built really great trust with them. Tell me, where is the part where you actually start converting people on your email list who trust you, who are your friends, into sales that actually make a difference for your bottom line and make you more profitable?
Yeah. So I think it's different for everybody. Some people will start making money right away. Other people, like you and me, we wander a little bit until we find a groove, till we find who we're talking to, what we want to say, and how we want to show up and serve, right? But you should be selling pretty much right off the bat. So there's a few different ways. The first way is a tripwire. When someone joins your email list, take them to a sales page. Listen, at the time of this recording, it's 2024. You do not need to tell them, go check your inbox. They know that.
Yeah.
They know they just signed up for an email list, okay? Even if your audience is full of like 60 and 70-year-olds, they know what email is, okay? So instead, taking them to an offer that says, hey, this is limited time, it's a low cost, do you want it? Thanks for joining my list. This is the next logical step. And this, yeah, you might not make a lot of money off of it. but it is doing its job of flipping the switch from, oh, this person's going to give me free stuff to, oh, this person offers real solutions to my real problems.
Amen.
So that's the first way we're going to sell with email marketing. The second way, and probably what you're thinking, are the hard pitching, the Monday through Friday open close cart, right? And you can't see me, but behind me I have my entire year mapped out. That took me 8 years, by the way, to figure out how I want to sell. But I have my launches, and it is your responsibility as the email marketer, because yep, that is what you are. I'm claiming it today. I hope you claim it with me.
Absolutely.
To put that in your calendar to say, okay, I'm going to launch something, Christmas in July sale or around Black Friday, and make that your mission to do. And the third thing, and my most favorite, is the soft pitching. This is where we can make money, a lot of the time, where we can write a newsletter. Hey, the plumber's on its way. I got 20 minutes. Here's 2 things you should do and 1 thing you shouldn't do, 2 and 0, right? For 20, because I got 20 minutes. 2 things you should do with email. A, B, here's 1 thing to never do. Okay, I'm out of here. And then in the PS, you can say, that thing, if you're doing that thing I told you to never do, I actually have a workshop on how you can blah, 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 blah instead.
Love
That's
that.
a soft pitch, right? That's a super, y'all, I know you can't write this down because you're doing something else, but, commit that to memory. That could be your next email, right? Hey, I've got 20 minutes. Here's 2 things and here's 1 thing. Oh, here's my workshop. Here's my template. Here's my membership. Here's my course. And so it's just, we're bringing value. We're showing we're invested because we're giving them those free tips, right? Hey, I know you do this. Don't stop doing it. Oh, if you really, really want to move forward with this, grab this thing over here, right? And so again, we've got the tripwire that just flips the switch. Hey, I'm a business. I offer real solutions. We've got that hard selling, which it is our responsibility to double down and try to make those sales. And then we've got the soft selling, the soft pitching, which we can add to pretty much any newsletter we write.
This is full of gold. Okay, my last super tactical question is subject lines. Everyone hates subject lines. Like, how do we make subject lines work to have people actually open the emails, want to read? Especially when something is like, oh, I get this every week, I can just read it later. I know what to expect in it. I'll take a look at it later. How do you write the subject line that makes somebody open the email?
Listen, I say it with love. Don't focus on the subject line, babe. Let the subject line go. It's exactly, Lauren already said what I wanted to say. It is like, oh my gosh, I know they email me every week. Why should I open it? It's the from line that will get them to open. From Lauren, from Liz, right? That's why someone opens. We already talked about, they're bombarded with spam emails. We are actively searching for something in our inbox. With social media, it's a very passive scrolling, right? The algorithm is feeding us what it thinks we want, and it's showing us new stuff all the time, right? With email, it's only showing us the things we signed up for and then all that bad crap that is desperately trying to filter out, but it's not perfect, right? And so we have to be the ones that are active. We have to be the ones to click and see. And guess what we're looking at first? The from line. We're not looking at subject lines. Oh, I need my power bill. Scroll, 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 right? Or I just type it in. Oh, I know Liz is running that flash sale. Where is that? Right? So we're actively looking for the emails we want. And so we need to focus on that from line. And kudos to you for listening to the first 40 minutes of this podcast. I already told you everything you need to get that from line, on and popping, we'll say.
Yes. Yes.
But
I love it.
So subject lines should be a secondary thought. Of course, they are important, because we got to get people to open our emails in the first place to, solidify that from line magic, we'll say. And so with the subject line, honestly, I write the email first and then I say, what's the gist of this? And then I say, if I was just sending this to Lauren, what would the subject line be, right? If I was just sending it to a friend, remember, friend, follower, friend, customer, we're just climbing that email staircase. So if I'm just sending it to a friend, what would it be? Instead of, two things you need and one you don't, that might be what I would write for SEO. I might say, hey, got this for you, got these tips for you. Are you doing this? First name, question mark. Stop doing this right now. Right. Instead of like, something more formal that I would write for a blog post, like 2 email marketing tips and 1 to avoid, that works great for a blog post. That's like clickbaity, but it's way too long for a subject line. So something like, hey girl, stop doing this. It's like, stop doing what? And I open it like, who does Liz think she is to just assume that? And it's like, oh crap, I am doing that. Oh, I need her workshop. Click. See how that works? It is seamless, baby. You can do it.
I love it. Okay, so my one little personal question to kind of wrap this up here is, you recently, if anyone Googles your name, you recently were a cast member on Survivor. And I want to know how that experience shaped your perspective on resilience, on risk taking in business and life. How did that change your life for better, for worse?
Yeah. So I got to, at the time of this recording, I've been home for not quite a year and a half, a year and a quarter or so. And I've been done with the show completely, meaning it's done airing for only about 3 months. So I'm still very much in it and figuring out the answer to that question. But as far as resiliency goes, wow, I am so resilient. I am allergic to coconut. I did not eat regularly for many a moon. I ate less than any contestant in the entire history of the show on any continent. And so, damn it, like I'm a badass. Can I say that? I'm going to say that.
Yes.
But it's also made me realize, and this is what I'm hoping to bring to my, future students, is that we can do way more than we think we can. If we think we're at capacity, we have a lot more. And you know what? Definitely rest. I slept every night and I slept really, really good out there, to be honest. But when I was on, right?
You were.
And so we are capable of so much more. And I really am seeing, we really overestimate what we can do in a day and underestimate what we can do in a year. And, that was really my Survivor experience, thinking, oh, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to do this. And it's like, okay, I only did have that. But then when I got, to the end, basically, I was like, wow, I did a lot in that time. And so that's what I'm hoping to bring to my future customers, students, and subscribers is, you know what? You got this. You got this all day long. You got to slow down to speed up, baby. And I am here to help guide you in that.
I love it. And I feel like, you definitely kicked ass on Survivor and it was fun to watch. And if anyone hasn't seen Liz's season, definitely check that out, because now you have so much more context to who Liz is as a person, how she teaches, how she helps people, and coupling that with like all of the stuff that you did on Survivor is just so cool. Okay.
Thank you.
Where do you see you seem like you are somebody who kind of sees through the lines, like reads through the lines of what is trendy and what is hip, and you pull out the things that kind of stand the test of time. And so my question would be is, as you see marketing evolving over the next few years, how do you kind of plan to adapt your own strategies or to continue offering value over time to your community? How do you kind of stay on top of being at the forefront, being top of mind, like you mentioned?
Yeah. So I think something I mentioned at the beginning of this episode is I'm a very efficient person. I don't like a lot of excess. I'm quite the minimalist. And I think to Lauren's point, that helps me see what actually works. It helps me see the basics, the bare bones, the tried and true strategies. And so while right now I think we're all distracted with what do I price this because the economy and also AI, how can I use AI to maximize da 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 da? I think the people that again, like stick to the tried and true, that double down on what is working and don't give up, in this economy, in quotes.
Yes.
It's like my least favorite saying that I've been hearing
In
for
this
2 years. I'm
economy.
so over it. I think they will succeed. I think Warren Buffett said something like, when people get scared, I get greedy. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that kind of pack up, so to speak, go back to 9 to 5. But y'all, these principles are still working. People are still spending money. Email marketing still works. In fact, in these times, in this economy, larger brands are doubling down on email marketing. And if you're going to need to, broaden your revenue streams and maybe you want to bring in partners and, get sponsorship dollars, et cetera, outside of your own products, guess what they're going to be looking at? Your email list, because they know that is the most effective way of marketing and has been since it was created. And so please, please, please keep emailing. Yeah, AI is great. I just started a podcast. That's great. But it all leads back to email marketing. And I think we're going to just see more of, well, email, that
Yes.
kind of answer for people in the future. I don't think that's going anywhere.
All right. And my last question for you to wrap up this episode, and a question that I generally work into every interview, is what is a myth that you would just love to bust about email marketing or micro offers? Something that people say all the time and you're like, I gotta bust this. Like, this is not really how it is.
Yeah. Well, with email, we already talked about storytelling. You don't
Yes.
need to tell a story in every email. But with like micro offers, dude, I make so much profit. I don't know what people are talking about. I really don't. My main offer is $9 and I make like profit, just put it in the bank and I have to figure out something, like I have to figure out how to spend it for tax purposes, $3.80.
Yeah.
Y'all, in 2023, off of my $9 a month membership, I made $423,000. And after I paid myself, after I paid my full-time employee, after I paid taxes, after I paid every expense in my business, I still had almost $160,000 just sitting in the bank. And you want to know what I did with that money? I bought my dream house on my dream street in my dream neighborhood in my dream town.
I love it so much.
Thank you. Micro offers, you can make real money with them. Sure. Yeah, you need volume. I've got volume and I got time to create volume. Okay.
You have volume because you have an email list.
Exactly. So don't let anyone tell you, oh, the micro offer, that's to lead into such and such. Y'all, I don't really have an upsell. I really don't. I mean, I've got a couple other things. I've got mini offers for days, but I don't have this big mastermind or group coaching. Y'all, you can't even get on the phone with me right now. I literally have turned off my one-on-ones. I mean, granted, that's because I was on TV and I'm exhausted, but I really don't have an upsell and I'm making that kind of profit. So, myth busted.
Myth busted. Thank you so much for being here, Liz. I had such a good interview with you, and I'm so excited to share this.
Thank you.
And that wraps up our conversation with Liz Wilcox on mastering email marketing and building profitable micro offers. How cool, right? You can find any links we mentioned in the show notes or at laurendaviscreative.com/show. And if you would like to book a call with me to talk about your own personal branding journey, or find out more about my upcoming mastermind openings or live in-person events, or download any of my free resources, you can find that at the link in the show notes. What did you think of this episode? I'm always so keen to hear what resonated with you, which of Liz's strategies you're planning to implement in your marketing now, which ones you're doing later, which ones you're doing now, all of the above. So come find me on Instagram at ldaviscreative and let's connect there. You can let me know there. I'm ldaviscreative pretty much everywhere. And if you found value in Liz's insights, why not give her a shout out? It's a free way to support this podcast, to support people who are creating content and sharing their knowledge. Share this episode or drop Liz a message letting her know what you learned. These small acts really help keep us motivated and help us keep sharing our knowledge. And that is it for today. Keep building your authentic brand. Keep crafting those cool emails that people actually want to read. And I will see you on the next episode of the Real Personal Branding Podcast.